Let me just start with the obvious question. Why is this so important for you to invest in after you've already been here in the city for a quarter of a century? What's important about theological education in New York City?
Well, let me just start. That would take a long time to answer. Let's break it down. Let's just say theological education generally.
Yeah.
When one of my sons went to the ministry, he actually went to the same seminary that I did. And when he was done, it suddenly hit me. I mean, it really came down almost like a ton of bricks. I said, you are not as well prepared for ministry as I was in 1975. Because the world has become much more complicated, the culture has become much more complicated. You have to understand your theology better, you have to understand the Bible better when you're living in a pluralistic society where there's all these different cultural narratives competing for the hearts of your people. In fact, they've actually won over a lot of your people. You need people to teach you the biblical languages so you can really understand what the text says. You need to be taught how to read a text. You need to know church history. You need to know apologetics. You just need to know these things. Probably theological education of anything has to be deepened. It has to be lengthened.
Right.
But it certainly shouldn't be. We can't go back and do less than we used to do.
And we're seeing a lot of institutions, for the sake of survival, trying to sort of pare things down.
Yeah.
And I think that there's going to be a ripple effect, a bad ripple effect of that.
Yeah.
One of the delightful things about working with you is you do recognize how important it is that we do a good job in biblical studies, we do a good job in languages, we do a good job in theology, we do a good job in church history. And then you've got a Redeemer City to City year where you're going to really try and get some DNA into them about how do you go about planning a gospel-centered church or sustaining a gospel-centered church?
So if you take the MA, which we certainly hope you will, the nice thing about in New York, since we're all from New York, when we teach preaching, we teach mission, we teach pastoring, it's contextualized because everybody's facing the same stuff. And most of the students are not taking it all 1 year, which they could technically, but they're taking it over 2 or 3 or 4 years. I mean, they're fitting it into their schedule. So it's more contextual, therefore it actually is more practical. And it's also more flexibly available. And so if you do the MA, then all that practical stuff, which is basically built around the MA, it's for people who have already got maybe a seminary degree, but they want the practical here, but it's also for people who've been through the MA, and then that furnishes all that you would get in an MDiv and maybe then some. So it does really give you the full experience, and maybe, if I may be so bold, a better experience than if you have to pick up and move and cram it all into 3 or 4 years.